Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled, What If Syracuse Joined the Big Ten in 1995? The move that broke college football. In 1995, the Big Ten voted 7 to 4. One school changed conferences. Not Texas, not Notre Dame, Syracuse. And in this alternate history, that one vote quietly destroys the Big East by 2004, forces Notre Dame into the Big Ten, and triggers SEC expansion well above schedule, nearly collapsing the Big 12 in 2011, and also creating the playoff era 2 years early, all because of cable television contracts in New York City. That's not a hot take. This is a domino situation. Let's rewind. It's at the table for the vote nobody remembers. It's 1994. The Big Ten Conference is seen at 11 teams after adding Penn State. Penn State feels isolated. The conference is Midwest heavy. Cable TV is growing fast. And New York City is the largest untapped college football market in the country. Meanwhile, the Big East Conference is already showing cracks. Miami wants unequal revenue. Football schools are fighting basketball schools. TV money is uneven. The Big Ten commissions a study. Adding a New York State program could increase per school media revenue by 40%. Three candidates are evaluated: Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse. Rutgers fails competitively, Pitt fails on academic alignment, Syracuse has a dome, a football brand, AAAU level academics, and NYC alumni penetration. Spring 1995. Vote passes. 7 to 4. Syracuse joins the Big Ten, and this is where the timeline bends. And this sets the table to the slow decline of the Big East. Now remember, this is alternate history, but the incentives it follows are very real. From 1996 to 2002, the Big East survives. Miami, Virginia Tech, Boston College, they hold it together. But without Syracuse, the northern anchor is gone. TV negotiations in 2002 exposed the gap. In 2003, the ACC raids Miami and Virginia Tech, with Boston College following in 2004. Big East football collapses, earlier than our timeline, but not implausibly earlier. Syracuse didn't destroy the Big East instantly, they weakened its spine. And you may be thinking to yourself, there's no way the Big Ten would have taken Syracuse in 1995. Here's why that would be wrong. This wasn't about football dominance, it was about cable carriage guarantees. NYC cable providers offered expansion triggered contracts. Penn State privately pushed for an Eastern partner. The vote was narrow, but economic. It was not about prestige, it was about leverage. And that sets the table to the near demise of the Big 12. In 2004, West Virginia joins the Big 12 much earlier than they did in real life. Geography gets stretched, Texas is unhappy, revenue asymmetry is brewing. By 2011, Oklahoma flirts with the SEC. Texas makes noise about going independent. The Big 12 nearly collapses. Emergency negotiations hold it together. And this is the unintended consequence. Syracuse leaves the Big East, which forces ACC raids, which pushes West Virginia west, which destabilizes the Big 12 earlier. Butterfly effect. And you may be thinking to yourself that the Big East would have survived longer. And it probably would have without Syracuse leaving first. That's the key. Removing Syracuse changes leverage. The ACC no longer hesitates. Miami sees the writing on the wall. And that leads to the collapse happening in 2004. Accelerated, but not rushed. And that sets the table to Notre Dame's clock ticking. And with this, we're going to fast forward to 2010. The Big East is gone. The Big Ten has Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Syracuse. Notre Dame's independence is no longer buffered by Eastern scheduling. In this alternate history, Notre Dame signs a scheduling alliance in 2010. By 2016, when the playoff expands to 8 teams, they join fully. The move feels less dramatic because the Big Ten already has a Northeast footprint. Syracuse made this normal. And you may be thinking to yourself that Notre Dame would never join that early. That's fair, but consider NBC leverage weekends when playoff revenue concentrates inside conferences. The ACC loses Clemson to the SEC in 2013 in this particular timeline. Power consolidation accelerates. Independence becomes expensive. Notre Dame joins not out of fear, but out of math. And that sets the table to the SEC countering. In 2013, the SEC expands with the aforementioned Clemson and then also Texas A&M. Now the ACC is weakened, the Big Ten is consolidated, the playoff launches in 2012 instead of 2014, expands to 8 by 2016 and 12 by 2026. Revenue stratification widens faster. College football centralizes earlier, all because of a 1995 vote. You may be thinking to yourself that Syracuse would not survive the Big Ten gauntlet. And you're right at first. The 2005 to 2008 window is particularly rough. 2 4-8 seasons, coaching turnover, cold weather recruiting struggles. They're volatile, not stable, but Big Ten revenue cushions collapse. They don't fade away, but they endure. And that sets the stage to the long game. Now here's the twist. In this alternate history, Syracuse never becomes Ohio State. They don't dominate. They don't win a national title. But in 2026, in a 12-team playoff era, after NIL investment in the Northeast, they go 10-2 and they make the playoff. Because expanded access lowers the ceiling barrier they locked themselves under in 1995. They waited 30 years, but they endure long enough to benefit. And you may be thinking to yourself that one school couldn't reshape 30 years of power balance. But conferences are ecosystems. Remove a stabilizer, realignment accelerates, revenue adjusts, politics follow. It doesn't take a blue blood, it takes timing. And while this is alternate history, it's grounded in very real incentives, such as media contracts, academic voting blocks, revenue asymmetry, and playoff politics. Syracuse didn't become a dynasty, they became a catalyst. They chose security over ceiling and accidentally set off a domino effect that led to the Big East dissolving early, the ACC raid accelerating, a near collapse of the Big 12, earlier SEC expansion, and changes to playoff consolidation, all because of one 7-4 vote. That's how fragile college football really is. If you enjoyed this deep dive domino simulation, hit like. If you think Syracuse would have collapsed instead, tell me in the comments. If you want more alternate history breakdowns that stress test college football power structures, subscribe because the next vote might be even bigger.